and welcome to another Coffee with Kilroy, or what I many times call beverage in a book. Let me have some coffee. I suggest you as well, or drink whatever suits your fancy. Today, the book is Rise of Rome, Republican Rome at War. This is part of the Field of Glory wargaming rules for ancient and medieval tabletop gaming. I'll put a link to this and my previous coverage of miniature rules. And I decided to kind of take on the Field of Glory and go through the many companion books that I have picked up over the years. This is companion book number 1 for Field of Glory. Let's move the coffee out of the way and take a look at this book here. So Field of Glory is just that. It's a miniatures rule set covering ancient to medieval time period. And so these companion books, really what these add are army lists. They add some context. This particular book is talking about the rise of Rome. So we're going to have some introduction and context of that period and some army lists to build out armies from that period to give you a little bit of guidance. Let's look at the back of the book here. Do battle with the Roman Republic and its enemies with Rise of Rome, the Field of Glory gaming companion, from the war against Pyrrhos of Epeiros until the victory of Augustus. The Roman legions fought for their republic, their commanders, and themselves. Enhance your gameplay with this addition to the original rulebook, complete with organization of hundreds of accurately researched troop types, detailed historical overviews, and supporting maps and artwork. So the other aspect of these books, not only does it give you context for the period and give you army lists, it also will give you some images and paint for painting purposes. There's really tabletop miniatures. Wargaming is a multifaceted hobby. There's the collecting the miniatures, getting the miniatures, preparing them, painting them, compiling your army based on historically accurate army lists, and then playing the game, right? The playing the game is kind of an afterthought sometimes in here. So anyway, let's take a look at this book and see what we have in here as far as the contents. Let's go in a little bit closer here so you can see hopefully see what's going on here. You've got introduction, mid-Republican Roman, late Republican Roman, Gallic, Pyrrhic, later Carthaginian, Illyrian, ancient Spanish, later Macedonian, Attilid, Pergamene, Numian, or early Moorish, later Seleucid, later Ptolemaic, Pontic, Spartacus slave revolt. That's kind of cool. You get to do the Spartacus slave revolt. Man, I need coffee. Every time I make a mistake, you guys get to drink. And if you're drinking something harder than coffee, good luck. Early Armenian, Parthian, later Jewish, Bosphorus, and they got appendix in here. So there's quite a bit of content in here. I mean, it's not that thick of a book, but there's some really interesting army lists in here. And so what you're going to get, like this is mid-Republican Roman, and here's your army list. Here's kind of your build out for that to give you some feel for what you're looking for or how you want to comprise your army. And also, when you want to build your battles, what battles do you want to fight, and then what are the opposing forces and what's the build for that. And here's a continuation of that chart there. And you also got to have some images and painting to kind of give some feel for what these images or what these miniatures should look like once you paint them up. Here's a map of Alesia. So this is the Battle of Alesia. So this is Caesar versus the Gauls, and this is kind of the fighting donut. Very, very interesting battle. One of the more interesting ones in ancient history. And here's some of your army lists for the Romans, and then we're going to get some army lists for the Gauls. Here's Gallic, and I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce his name. I always butcher it every time, but then again, I always butcher every name. So here's your starter, the Gaelic starter army, and then you got a little bit more of a build out there for that army. So Pyrrhos, the infamous for the Pyrrhic victory, which is a victory where you win but you really lose, and he was quite a kind of a mercenary of sorts during a period around 318 to 272 BC, generally in that range there. Quite an interesting character. Later Carthaginian. So most of this is just going to be this. It's going to be a lot of charts and tables of battle of armies and army lists to kind of build out your army. So I've always found that very interesting. And again, I don't play a lot of miniatures. Why am I going through all these miniature books? Well, I do this for the reference and also from kind of a connection to gaming. So this is tabletop gaming. I do a lot of board gaming, war gaming, and so to me this is just another reference point of, well, how do these miniature rules work, and then how are these army builds, or what are these attributes of these armies? That helps me. It's kind of a translation from text of historical text and interpreting that historical text to kind of a game situation. What are these features? And so and then the next step of this, if you're going to do a board game, is taking this and putting it on a counter, right, or on a card, or whatever you're going to use to portray the unit. So I kind of like this. This is, to me, is an interesting read on the history and the different attributes. But then again, that's very, very, very nerdy. Anyway, each to their own, right? So a lot of charts and tables in here, and that's one reason I picked a lot of these up. I try to get these at a bargain, and I think these were less than half price at one point, a lot of these. And so here's the Spartacus Slave Revolt. We all know the movie Spartacus with Kirk Douglas, and then the TV series later on. But there was truly a Spartacus, and there was a slave revolt, and there you have it. Probably not as accurate as, probably not portrayed accurately on the big screen and on the little screen, but there you have it. And I actually have a war game that covers this revolt. I might have to pull that out sometime. And there you have it. There's just a lot more of that in here. The Parthians. Later Jewish. Of course, that we're talking about. Let's see what. I think I have a book that deals with like biblical times, so that's going to be probably the early Jewish. But here's some of the later stuff. So this is probably their interaction with Rome, which was on and off for several hundreds of years. And there you have it. So that is what I have for you today. Nice quick little flip there on Rise of Rome, part of the Field of Glory series. I'm going to do more of these unless you boycott my channel and say stop doing these. But I thought these were kind of interesting and thought I would do kind of a little coffee with Kilroy and flip through these. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Thanks for watching.